As we're coming to the close of 2021, I have an invitation for you to join me in looking up. What the world needs now, of course, is hope and, of course, sanity. But what it does for me when I look up at the stars, and I ask you to join me in looking up, is the constancy of the stars and the dependability of the light they shine in the darkest hours of us here on earth. And although I'm going to talk to you in this podcast about so-called good news or bad news with what is coming in 2022, rather I like to think of it as we've simply made another trip around the sun. And that with each year's turn, we have another opportunity from a higher octave to decide how we want to see the world, to decide to polish our spiritual hearts so that the mirror in our minds and hearts can be a reflection of the constancy of light, the constancy of the source of light. Whether you think of it as simply in astronomy, the sun, or you also think of it spiritually as our source, as universal love being the light for the whole world. As of December 28 of 2021, the planet Jupiter finished his travels through the sign of humanitarian Aquarius and entered the sign of deeply compassionate Pisces. Jupiter's archetypal role, or Jupiter's energy, is benevolence and optimism, like the character of Kris Kringle or the cornucopia at Thanksgiving. It's a time of abundance and what feels like good fortune. It's not about luck. It's rather about being inspired through optimism and a renewed self-confidence to see a broader, higher horizon of what might be accomplished if we put our minds to it. The water sign of Pisces, whose muse is the planet Neptune, the god of the sea, reminds me actually of an old refrain that I was used to in the church choir of my childhood. And it was a hymn called "Love Lifted Me." And that is really going to be the theme, if you choose it, that is, for 2022. I took the privilege of editing some of the words that I want to share with you from that. And basically, the refrain of the hymn is, "Love lifted me, love lifted me. When nothing else could help, love lifted me. Souls in danger, look above. The master of the sea lifts you up by his love." We'll all look to you water signs out there. Certainly, if you have your sun or moon in Pisces, this is going to be one of the most inspirational times of your life, certainly in recent years. And if you're in the water sign of Cancer, this is your year to lead us, but first by leading yourself, to enjoy the serenity, the home and hearth of being with family and of nurturing not just yourself and your spirit, but nurturing also the growth of love and spirit in the world. And for those of you in the water sign of Scorpio, you bring us a deep dive into the deepest resources of, well, our unconscious mind, but also our souls. because how will we get hope this year with Pisces, with Jupiter in Pisces? Because down in the depths, some of us have believed that there we have hidden our ugliest traits, our things from childhood and forward that we don't want to remember because we deem them as unpleasant or huge mistakes that can't be repaired. But with Jupiter in Pisces, I promise you that what we're going to find in the darkest recesses of our minds, we're going to find that treasure chest, and we're going to be absolutely astonished by the fact that if we open it, what we will see is gold. In fact, what we will see is where we have buried the possibilities of our own magnificence. And Scorpio, you bring us that powerful determination to find it. The next archetypal actors taking the stage in 2022 are our favorite cosmic lovers, Venus and Mars. They are standing together at the top of the Capricorn mountaintop. So you earth signs, listen up. What they are going to bring us from those higher peaks is the looking glass of loving companionship, a place where our hearts can be healed and made whole, because these famous lovers on the center stage are going to, well, basically offer us three things. First of all, the party girl part of Venus lays aside sort of her flirtatious games. She swallows a dose of Capricorn fair-mindedness. And so her story now is that she declines the old paradigms that measure beauty by outer appearance. Her focus now on our inner beauty, and in particular, because Venus is always about relationships, the beauty in the relationships we have when we release them into all they can be by forgiveness. Her warrior companion, Mars, also at the mountaintop and in the sign of earthy Capricorn, lays down his sword for a plow. He's trading in his running shoes for hiking boots, and he takes a very sure-footed stand for integrity, for telling the truth. And Mars is taking this stand not to fight for the truth, but rather help us remember the truths that we've always known but forgotten. So Venus and Mars yoked together in this earthy Capricorn energy are going to bring us, or want to bring us, this invitation as co-creators of a new design for being in relationships that leaves behind the old rules, especially the old rules where we are fearful of joining with one another, and bring us that loving looking glass that shows us how we need each other and how we need to meet on equal ground. So those of you who are earth signs, well, let's start especially with Capricorn. You have been our leaders since the beginning of this new 500-year cycle in January of 2020, when we had both Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, and that was a much more serious business than to now have Venus and Mars in Capricorn, calling us to partnerships. And earth signs of Virgo, you are going to be inspired to do the work for this. You, in particular, help us harvest the wisdom of healing ourselves using what Mother Nature, what the earth has always offered us so freely. And for Taurus, Earth Taurus sign, if you have your sun or moon in Taurus, you add beauty to all of it because, of course, Venus rules the sign of Taurus. You add beauty, but you also add beauty that is eternal, like what we see in the beautiful statue, the Pietà. And all of you water and earth signs together, because you're so compatible, like the earth holds water, show us the way to leave the past behind. And the only way to do that is through forgiveness. We can now have much more objectivity about our relationships, how we see each other, through acceptance and tolerance of our differences. It doesn't mean you have to like everything about another person, but rather that you take a view of them that is from that higher octave, where you see their light, whether it's hidden under a bushel by them, right, or not. You allow yourself to know that it is there, no matter what. We have such a loving booster as we have ended 2021 and beginning 2022, because Venus is taking an extraordinary long stay in the sign of Capricorn because of a retrograde phase. And Venus entered Capricorn on November 5th, and she is going to go retrograde December 20th. But Warrior Mars joins her in Capricorn on January 25th. So mark your calendars, because that's your day to remember to lay down your sword. And while Venus is the heroine and Mars is our hero on these mythic quests, and we are all on a quest, we're all on the same journey. Our version of what we think the Holy Grail would be might be very, very different, but nevertheless, we are striving to make a better world, make a happier life for ourselves. And so their most exact conjunction, that is when they pair up at the same degree in Capricorn, is going to come, and this is so adorable, isn't it? Is going to come February 13th of 2022, the eve of Valentine's Day. You have to know there's a little cosmic humor in that one. And they will continue traveling together until March the 5th of 2022. But the big red star I want you to put on your calendar is for March the 3rd. And remember, these dates are simply peaks of a long bell curve of a long transit. And what happens on March the 3rd? Pivotal point, because they are going to meet up with Pluto. This is going to add power, depth, and intensity to all our relationships. And you can look for the kind of kismet or serendipitous encounters with other people that let you know you have a soul union, that you have made some sort of soul contract to meet each other, to be with each other, to forgive each other. Then things shift on March the 6th, because then both Venus and Mars, side by side, hand in hand, enter humanitarian Aquarius. And then I promise we feel the love of all mankind. And I don't want you fire signs to think I'm leaving you out, but I will say that after January the 26th, you might feel a bit waterlogged, and you might feel you're sloshing around in mud for a while. until the sun goes into Aries for the beginning of spring on the 21st of March. So Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries, look to your air sign buddies for some literally deep breath of fresh air. Air signs, especially Aquarius, have so much innovation and new scientific discoveries to teach us, because of course Saturn stays in Aquarius through all of this, being such a slowpoke. But when Venus and Mars join Saturn in Aquarius on the 6th of March, then we can all expect a lot of forward movement in terms of understanding and news and communications. And the air signs of Gemini and Libra, you're in think tank mode to support and explore new ways, really new attitudes. And now, pulling back for a look at this whole scene, I want to say another word about Jupiter in the water sign of compassionate and empathic Pisces. Jupiter, is about abundance, and he can overdo things. He can become very exuberant in his gifts, and I noticed, I'm not sure how this will play out, but I think we might also see it play out in the actual weather here on Earth. But in the weeks leading up to the first day of spring, so especially March the 9th through the 20th, things are wet, 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 because the sun is in Pisces, Mercury is in Pisces, Jupiter's in Pisces, and of course Neptune has been in Pisces all along. There is absolutely no fire, with the exception of the 2.5 days the moon might be in Leo, but otherwise this could mean a downpour, and definitely it will be a downpour of emotion and heightened intuition. So, talk about mind melds and clairvoyance. This is also the time for that. We can renew our spiritual connection with each other and perhaps give a glad welcome to the fact that we are one and we do read each other's minds. All the more reason to keep your heart open to love, and that becomes universal in expression when Venus and Mars are both in Pisces, along with Jupiter and Neptune, for the end of April. We might all get on our knees in humility and pray for the hope and health of everyone in the world. And I came across this quote I'd like to leave with you. Is from a woman, Gladys Tabor, and it's from the Sun magazine in November of 2021. And she says, "In this age, we know about sufferings all over the world. In earlier times, people were mainly involved in whatever went on in their immediate area. But suppose we could not hear what was happening in Europe until the news came by schooners. We would still have enough to worry about on our own shores. But we might hope to cure these local evils, and hope is a vital necessity. Now that we see we are members of a worldwide community, the task is harder. All the same, I cherish the feeling that all people everywhere are my neighbors." So we see, not only is there a reason for hope, each one of us has an individual responsibility to adjust our attitude, watch what we think, and think only thoughts of love. And so for the new moon, the first new moon of 2022 in Capricorn that comes January 2nd, how about if we all have the intention to be a love finder, not a fault finder, and we all remember to look up in times of darkness and remember the light that is our source. I love you, and this is Judith Royal. You can always reach me if you would like to have an individual reading. Email me at judith@judithroyal.com. Bye for now.